Reducing population growth, that's this big benefit. The key thing you can do to reduce population growth is actually improve health.
In the developed countries, the big winners are countries that have shrinking populations.
I would like to reduce the number of people on the planet because there's too many of us.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population,
Wait. What the?
More of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
What the fuck? Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that.
We're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms, and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
What the?
So in the next 5 to 10 years, for the next pandemic, we'll solve all those problems.
You say the next pandemic. There will be another pandemic.
Absolutely. We don't know when.
History teaches us that the next pandemic is a matter of when, not if.
We know what's next. We're going to have another major coronavirus pandemic before the end of this decade, before 2030.
If we really want to prevent the next pandemic, and there will be one, there will absolutely be an outbreak of another pandemic. It may be next year.
We need more money to plan for the second pandemic. There's going to be another pandemic. We have to think ahead.
We definitively will have to face other surprises, black swans, as they are called, maybe different kinds of viruses.
But also there will be a surprise outbreak.
Most of the work we're going to do to be ready for pandemic 2, I call this pandemic 1. We just need to mess around.
The EPA recently approved an experimental use permit to Oxitec, a biotech company funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. In an effort to fight malaria, Oxitec will soon release millions of genetically modified mosquitoes in various U.S. states. Programs are being developed to allow human immunization via mosquito bite. It was Science magazine that coined the phrase, flying syringes.
Just then, by sheer coincidence.
Oxford, Massachusetts, and 3 neighboring towns have a reason for concern as mosquitoes carrying a potentially deadly virus called Eastern Equine Encephalitis, or Triple E, infected a resident who is now fighting for his life.
We don't want to see another human case of Triple E this year.
The rare but dangerous disease can cause swelling in the brain. There's no treatment and anyone can get infected. The death rate is as high as 30%.
The city is applying pesticide to reduce the threat of the West Nile virus. To minimize exposure to the pesticide, please go indoors immediately.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to our apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone who rule well over the flock of Israel. Shalom and salutations to you, Akim, who are pushing the words of truth and sincerity. Shalom to all the Lord's elect, Akim, and Akwafim, scattered Israelites and Israelite foreigners. Abarat the Zah, which is Lord willing, this video will be edifying. Abarapah. Today, we're just going to go into prophecy concerning the scriptures in Matthew's 24, or in general, if you Google pestilence, which is one of those signs and tokens that Yahweh Shai said would be at his return, or show that he's coming back. All right, he told his disciples and apostles that he had to leave. Son of Man must be crucified, or, he had to be killed. He had to lay down his life for the sins of his people. And then he would return and set up the kingdom. And these signs would be as tokens or indicators as when he was going to return. So when you type in pestilence into Google, you get an AI overview. It says in the KJV, pestilence refers to destructive and widespread epidemic disease, often appearing in conjunction with other disasters like famine and war. And then it quotes what I just quoted, Matthew's 24th chapter at the 7th verse. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. It also gives Psalms 91:3. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence, which we know the noisome pestilence is referring to that great disaster of a third world nuclear war, nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb, in which this pestilence is noisome, right? It's prophetic. It's prophetic, man. It also refers to the noisome or the nuisance of the thermonuclear bomb being a pestilence. In Psalms 91:6, it says, nor the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor the destruction that wasteth at noonday. So there's a destruction to be had, just likened it to a third world war. But as far as these pestilences sent during the time of famines, it's going to be many plagues here. It's likened unto diseases. All right? Severe and contagious disease. Widespread disease. Now, if you go ahead and you look up what's the latest on outbreaks, it says according to the CDC, Center of Disease Control, or Pestilence Controls and Prevention, or the WHO, World Health Organization, as of November 4th, 2025, which today we are in the, I believe it's the 12th or the 13th. Let me see here. Today will be the 10th. It's lucky. So in the 10th, so as of 6 days ago, the CDC reported a total of 1,681 confirmed measles cases in the U.S. So right now there's a measles outbreak plaguing the United States. It said with 44 outbreaks and 87% of confirmed cases being outbreak associated. At least 3 deaths confirmed. 16 people infected across 10 states. And it said, that 16 across 10 states was a salmonella outbreak based upon home delivery meals. You know these home delivery meal apps? Apparently they've been having some outbreaks of their own with salmonella. Alright, there's also something going on with polio. So the definition of this. Okay. It looks like a dangerous insect is going on, spreading outbreaks over there in Martha's Vineyard, which is like Massachusetts area. We have 200,000 and counting with H.I. Monster over there in Houston, Texas, man, which is its own form of pestilence. Somebody is mentioning on social media that it's a Dr. Susanna. She's giving a report about the truth of how polio spread. The Rockefeller lab created a separate form of polio and released it to the public by accident, polio. Okay? Suzanne Humphreys, you can look that up. This is in 1916. So not every outbreak is natural born, as you noticed during the jump shot pandemic. Different cases happening all over the place, man. Alright? So be prepared, as you might see new viruses, AI viruses even, come to light. What do we have here? We have a complete dire situation. And the dire means something that is at it's almost on the way out. Let me get that definition of dire. Define dire. Alright, dire means a situation or event extremely serious or urgent. Also terrible or dreadful. Alright? Or a presaging disaster, a warning or a threat of a presaging disaster. Presaging means it'll be a sign or a warning that something, typically something bad will happen. Presaging. Ominous. So dire is ominous. It's dreadful warnings. A bad, extremely serious situation is about to occur. And the Lord said he'll send sorrows upon the earth, man, as our form, that he will, signs and indicators that he will come. And if these are the indications of him coming, that means it's going to be a terrible time. And think about it. You know, before a noble is brought before a president or a king, you would have trumpets blaring at the sound of the trumpet, right? And there's a trump being blared in these last days. It tells you that Yahushua will be coming back at a trump. And I believe there in the book of Revelations, we have 7 trumpets. Let me make sure I'm just accurate. 7 trumpets. That's right. AI overview: the 7 trumpets refer to a series of 7 apocalyptic trumpets blown by angels in the biblical book of Revelations. Yep, 7 trumps. All signifying apocalyptic disasters leading up to the final disaster, which Yahushua will have to come back and physically redeem his elect, lest they be destroyed. And the scriptures tell you, except those days shall be shortened, no flesh shall be saved. So the situation is dire. All the reports of the scriptures, it was written it within and without, therein and thereout. Lamentation, mourning, and woe inside this roll, inside this script, inside this book. So these 7 trumps symbolizes all forms of pestilences, plagues, and devastations and destructions to come. Mainly the destruction of hellfire, which is thermonuclear war, not a judgment under subcutaneous earth hellfire. It says, which signal divine judgment and significant world-altering events. And this is what people aren't prepared for. The world-altering events of AI, digitally designed plagues and pestilences, which that's what they're allowing these AIs to design in this last days. Whether you got the news or not, you should trust the prophets over trusting the news. That's right. News can be altered, but prophecy can't. Goes on, these events include natural disasters affecting the earth, sea, and sky, as well as supernatural plagues like tormenting locusts and a massive army. That goes to World War II. It talks about the locusts, them flying in like locusts. This is parabolic of the humming and the buzzing in the sky of these World War II era planes that it speaks about in the book of Revelations. I believe the 9th chapter. Let me ask Google. Where is the plague of locusts in the book of Revelation? It's Revelation 9, chapter 9. It starts at verse 1 through 11. And that plague symbolically referring to the planes of World War II. Yep. It's an old breakdown the apostles did back in the day on that. He opened the bottomless pit. That's Europe. In verse 2. Verse 6 says, in those days man will seek death and will not find it. That's dealing with the shell-shocked World War II victims. And the those of World War II who desired death rather than continuing to live, man. Even the plagues after the war ended were just as severe as the war itself, man. Anytime they heard a loud noise, they would get down thinking that the shots is firing. They would wake up in the middle of the sleep. They desired death. It says they would not find it, so they wouldn't be able to kill themselves or die. It goes on. Right, so the entirety of Revelation 9 from the jump is dealing with the war over there in the bottomless pit, which is Europe. And the Lord used planes and like as locusts for these people to go to war with each other. Verse 7, the shape of the locust like it was like horse prepared for battle. This is in the NKJV. Their heads were crowns of something like gold. And this goes back to the helmets of those of Kaiser Wilhelm and those. Forget what the Prussia, if I'm not mistaken. They had these golden-like helmets. You look that up. They even had a spiky cone at the top. This was all symbolic of what John the Revelator, he saw World War II in 4D, if you will, and described it as such. Shape of locusts, like horses prepared for battle, because them planes would just take off and they'd form formations like horses on land, but they were flying in the air. And the best description he could give of these planes was locusts. Planes didn't exist at that time. Just like he gave the missiles, the references of arrows, book of Isaiah, right? Mushroom clouds referred to as scrolls in the book of Isaiah. Heat like an oven in the book of Micah or Malachi. Woe, woe, and woe in the book of Revelation. So these are all parabolic talk of what they were seeing in their visions and prophecies that will come to pass in these last days. Who shall deliver me from the plagues sent from the wrath of the Lord in those days? There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Prophets were worried about how would they survive in these last days. Now we have that understanding, with the understanding of so-called UFOs, ships, chariots of the Lord, just like Esau has his chariots that it speaks about in verse 9. Yahushua in the right hand side of the Father has his chariots. Moses had his right-hand side snakes that he turned into a staff, back into a staff. And the magicians had their snake that they turned from a staff. So that's just showing you about the some of the trumps that was blown. That's one of the trumps. The fifth trump was World War II. Apocalyptic scenarios and the things about these apocalyptic scenarios, or the seven trumps in Revelations, is that the judgment is divine judgment. The trump signals divine judgment in significant world-altering events. World War II is world-altering. I believe the death toll, even the civilian death toll, was in the 30 millions. And the war right now between Russia and Ukraine, that's the most deaths that Europe has seen since World War II, which was almost 100 years ago. A little less than. Showing you that white on white crime is back and here to stay. I mean, it's obviously more than that. But it's showing you that's the biblical, serious judgment that was written of in the scriptures. And you don't have any of these lessons being taught in any of these churches. We had to learn this at School of the Prophets. I learned this from the School of the Prophets, the GMS School of Prophets. Online, YouTube, for free. Yeah, man. First trump, hail, fire, and blood. Obviously, Third World War. Second trump, a great mountain ablaze, thrown into the sea. Judgment upon Babylon. Third trumpet, wormwood. That's dealing with these nukes as well, where you would have the Chernobyl-like nuclear fallout. Water that's being poisoned from the nuclear fallout. Even the nuclear fallout is going to be devastating. The sun's going to be blocked out for a time over America. We got 7 trumps, man. Sixth trump, 200 million man army unleashed. That's those nukes being launched. Third trump, beginning of it's Yahushua. Seventh trump, Yahushua's return, and the kingdom of heaven being set up. That's why in Thessalonians it tells you that when he came with a trump. Let's get that real quick. Beautiful, man. Beautiful time we in. I'll type in Trump Thessalonians and Donald Trump comes up. Which that's no coincidence. Nero 47, also known as Trump. Let's see if the verse comes up, man. I ain't asking about Trump. 1 Thessalonians 4 and 16 and 17. This is where Christians get the idea of the rapture. Except this is during the 7th trump when Yahushua returns. So there can't be a rapture until Third World War commences. So that means we'll have to be in the midst of prophecy, world-altering, apocalyptic prophecies, all the way up into the 7th trump. And we won't leave, or the elect won't be redeemed any moment before that. So the rapture has been denied. The salvation is biblical. This is Thessalonians, what is that? 1 Thessalonians 4 and 16. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of an archangel, and with the trumpet of Yahweh. So this links up with the 7th trump in the book of Revelations. It says, "In the dead in Yahweh will rise first." So those that have been martyred, and also those who have passed on, they'll be risen to be delivered, right? And put on those ships. Be first to be on those ships, showing you that death, even death, can't deliver you from hellfire. Meaning that the Lord could bring you back just for that judgment. And furthermore, reincarnation is biblical. Whereas the scriptures tell you that Lazarus and the rich man, basically died, and then Lazarus came back in paradise, whereas the rich man came back in torments, but he was able to ask of Lazarus for a drop. So one was in a figurative hell of the rich man. Lazarus was in the rich man's hell and subject unto the rich man's mercy. Then, as a change of fortune, The rich man was in Lazarus' house. It just proves how the scriptures tell you the saints shall take the kingdom and possess it. In the kingdom there have possessions. The proof of that is their nursing mothers and their kings shall be their queens shall be their nursing mothers, and kings shall be their bondmen. And scriptures tell you in Isaiah 14, you shall possess them as bondmen and bondwomen. Right? So judgment has to happen, and it's going to play out on earth. And that's where judgment will play out, man. That's why the trumps will be blown and judgment will pour out upon earth, especially for those that took the mark. Mainly. Verse 17, then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So you can't jump the fact that Yahushua is returning to deliver us from thermonuclear war, but not any sooner than that. You know, we get beamed up before Yahushua is going to come back to establish this earth. When he comes back to establish, we'll be delivered simultaneously. He's establishing the kingdom now. Now it's time in our new bodies to go in. Scripture tell you about that the kings of the earth shall say to the rocks, hide us from the fall on us, and hide us from the wrath of the Lamb, who sits on the right hand side of him that is on the throne, roughly paraphrasing. So the judgment of the Lamb, Yahushua, is going to be upon the kings of this earth, which they will be slaves. And thus we shall always be with the Lord. So once we redeemed and delivered from said judgments from Esau, we're going to be righteously established in the kingdom of heaven. Alright, so I just wanted to touch on that. This video was edifying. Until next time, Shalom.